I should probably retitle this video like Kristen complains about zone 3. Hey tulips. It's 2 weeks before my first market ever selling flowers, and I've got to say I am equal parts excited and nervous. The good news is that I'm going to have tulips. I really didn't know if I would actually have flowers or not. So I also told the organizers that I would be selling printed copies of my ebooks. So at least I would have something no matter what. But the stars have aligned and we have tulips. Let me show you. The bad news is that not all of the tulips are quite as ready as I'd like them to be, and the stem length on some of them is quite frankly abysmal. So these are my fancy tulips that I did underneath our hoop structure. I thought this would give them a leg up, but honestly, they're not doing so hot, and some of them are even starting to get buds, which means the stems are going to be way too short. However, over here by the house where I've made a bit of a perennial bed, these tulips are doing fantastic, and I can actually start pulling a few to save for this sale in 2 weeks. One of the reasons I actually don't like growing tulips is because they are challenging here in our prairie climate. It's so dry and our spring moisture levels are not always guaranteed. So I knew that I would have to water these tulips pretty much every single day, especially because we have sandy soil, if I had any hope of getting decent stem length. And what's really frustrating to me is that this patch here has all been watered the same consistency and there is so much variation. So this variety here has really nice stem length and no problem. But over here we have these sad short tulips. And then my parrot tulips are sort of like in between. Some are good, some are a little, not great, but we're gonna make it work. The biggest thing is now that the tulips are starting to be ready, I'm just gonna basically have to check them every day, twice a day, and then pull and refrigerate whatever is ready. So there's a few that are at the right stage right now, so let's get pulling them. All right, I've picked what I can, and I think I'm gonna leave the rest of these that are showing a bit of color just for tomorrow, give them a little extra time. However, seeing this, my first actual bucket of decent tulips, feels like a dream. So as much as I tried to be extremely careful when I was picking out my tulips, I still had some where the bulbs snapped off. So those I have to get into water, but only 2, so that's not bad. If you didn't know, flower farmers leave the bulb on their tulips, and this is because apparently if you just cut them off, they won't grow back as nicely. The other thing is that you get the longer stem. So for example, if I was cutting off at the base of the ground, the stem length would be here, but because I pulled out the bulb, I gain like at least 3 extra inches, and my stem length is here. Also, once these tulips are in water, their stems will continue to grow. Enough chit chat, gotta get these into the fridge, and I'll see you a little bit later. A few of these white ones are starting to get a little bit taller, so I'm still gonna hold out a little bit of hope for them. I really thought that growing tulips in the high tunnel would make a difference, but you can see here the stems are so short and only a few are really going to be sellable. Thankfully, now that everything is greening up, I should have lots of greens to pull from. A couple days ago, I found a really neat surprise. Now, I don't know if they're actually going to still be in bloom by the time we get to the market, but fingers crossed, and let me show you. I don't actually know what this shrub is, but whatever it is gorgeous. So you can see most of this is probably way too blown open to be of any use in 9 days. But this bush over here has a few buds, and it's gonna be kind of cold, so maybe I'll luck out. The tarragon is also getting really tall, so again, maybe in 9 days I might have a few stems of this for my bouquets too. Also, here's a little sneak peek of the flower garden so far. I knew you guys would want to see. Planted out quite a bit, but still all the warm stuff has to go out, and I might be covering this weekend. Also, Don't mind all of the sounds in the background. As you can see, the hermit is making a new garden space because we've actually run out of room. I just saw something as I was showing you this. Let's go check this out. We have our first ranunculus of the season. Now, maybe it doesn't look the nicest, but this ranunculus was really suffering inside the high tunnel. So I moved it in like a last ditch attempt for it to be okay. And I think it was 100% the right decision. We also have one little shorty anemone here that I'm probably not going to do much with, but it's just nice to look at. So it's about 5-6 days before the market and I'm still collecting tulips bit by bit, day by day. It's a good thing I have other things to sell because there certainly aren't a lot of them that are ready. I'm also really annoyed with myself. I definitely missed that one. And I missed that pink one over there. Whoops. Even though these tulips have pretty short stems that are not exactly ideal, I still feel like I can kind of work around it and make some arrangements in jars that you won't notice that the stem length is as good, and then I'll just sell them for a little bit less than I might normally, which is nice because then there's also some cheaper price points for people. Times are tough. So basically what I've been doing with the tulips is every single evening I come out and I see which ones are ready to be picked. I pick them, I store them. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a ton of fridge space. And I mean, the fridge is definitely not as ideal as a cooler, but I've been making it work. So what I've been doing as I've run out of fridge space is I've been putting them in the shade, in a spot that gets shade all day. And while it's sort of worked, it's definitely not perfect. Despite the best of intentions, some of these are starting to blow out, unfortunately. These over here are completely gone. This is like, I wouldn't want to sell that. But then some are hanging on really well, and like all these over here still holding out. Morning, friends. I gotta say, I am woefully underprepared for this market. I don't know just what has happened with this week with having to prioritizing planting and the girls just seeming to like really need me whenever we get home. So never really being able to like catch up with work in the evening. So here we are. So in a perfect world, I would have got everything that I'm doing right now done last night. So we're gonna try to clip some greenery, just basically see if I have any more jars. I don't know, like I'm just so second guessing myself right now. Like all I have running through my head is, you know, you can't eat the grass and their market videos and like how many tulips they're bringing to the market and stuff. And like, that's just not me. Like my operation isn't that big and, you know, I'm just at a slightly different stage of life than them. I'm in a different growing zone, but like it's so hard not to compare myself and think like, oh my goodness, Kristen, you really should have a lot more product than you do to this market. But peace. I can only do what I can only do, right? Thankfully, I have a helper coming. One of my best girlfriends is gonna come and she wants to see the new acreage. And then we're gonna like work on bouquets, figure it out. And it's all gonna be fun and it's all gonna work out in the end. But you know, just like the day before the market, I am stressing. So I'm sure many of you are wondering what exactly this is, and it's Russian tarragon. And so this is one of the few herbs that's actually a perennial in zone 3. I don't know why I'm such a skeptic. Like I never always believe, is it really gonna be a perennial? So I left it in and it came back stronger than ever. Like the stuff I seed started this year is so weak and piddly looking, and this stuff has beautiful strong stems. So definitely a must plant, Russian tarragon. I should probably retitle this video like Kristen complains about zone 3 because it's really hard in zone 3 and I try to stay positive and like tell you guys about, you know, you can do it, and like you can. Oh my goodness, at the beginning of the season it's so hard. Like we just don't have anything, and anything that is flowering to use for filler, I want those berries, so I'm not going to be cutting that. You know, I'm going to do my best to get some sort of filler, some sort of greens. I guess the greens are a little bit easier, but I don't know, I might be buying some baby's breath and plugging it in there because we just don't have a lot. Now, the good thing is this tree, I am completely fine with taking the blooms from because there's no fruit from this. So cut it. We're gonna cut it. One nice thing that is in our favor is that this budding of the flowers is basically perfect. So unfortunately, these trees, you can see sort of like a little hint of pink right over there. They finished blooming a little bit too early, which, man, was unfortunate because they were so pretty. But we have, I think they're called cotton esters. At home, we always just called them bird berries because, you know, they have these unedible berries and the birds eat them. But anyway, these make fantastic filler. So we're gonna get a bunch of this too. All right, I'm definitely feeling better. This is like a reasonable amount of stuff and I think we're in good shape. However, I gotta close up shop for a few hours because it's time to get the kids off to school and daycare. So see you in a bit. So huge setback. These are my tulips, my great tulips, the 2 beautiful buckets of tulips that you saw me lovingly pick earlier in this video look like this. And I mean, I kept them in a fridge, not a cooler. I mean, maybe I should have had water in them. I was pretty sure that when you did this trick, like with leaving the bulb on, that you weren't supposed to put water in them. Obviously, I am wrong. This blows a lot. So I guess now there's only one place for these to go. So here's the other thing. Like, I could run and buy purchased tulips and still sort of salvage the situation. At this point, I don't know if I want to do that or not. Like, I really just had my heart set on being able to sell stuff that I had grown myself. But at the same time, like, if I have nothing to sell. So these are the tulips I have. Obviously, some of these are just too blown out and are gonna be for display or for my photo shoot. But, you know, some of them are still good for the little arrangements that I have planned. But like, I'm looking at all of this and it's just really not a lot. So this is what we're able to make: 5 tulips, 5 fillers, and then 1 flowering branch. We're probably not gonna have a lot of them, but at least we're gonna have something cute to sell. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's 6. My 1 big bouquet is like not enough. Like, not even close. I'm gonna have to go try and buy tulips for a market that's 8 hours to have like, here's my 7 bouquets. Morning, friends. It's the morning of the market and I think I have somewhat regrouped from the great tulip disappointment of 2022. I will have things to sell. Hustle wise this morning definitely sucks. I'm glad this is a late market. It doesn't start till 11. So that gives me a little bit of leeway. And I really don't think my setup will take very long. Like, probably honestly half an hour, but I'll still try and be there an hour early. So I bought some wholesale tulips. I don't feel great about that decision, but I think for me it's the right one. And I gotta go make some bouquets, so come with me. got those bouquets made in decent time. It's not ideal, but I feel like I have at least a reasonable amount of flowers to sell. Cleaned up. Now let's get some breakfast and packed up, and then we're off. So 2 hours into the market, and it's going pretty decently. I don't know how well you can hear me, but sales are probably around like the 150 mark, which is, you know, for the first 2 hours, I think okay. And if I get to maybe say like 400, 500, that's about my goal. So 4 hours into the market, and we're pivoting pretty hard. One of my arrangements broke. I had to like take out the cash from my jar and rearrange it and add some things and clean up glass. And it was like a slightly disaster. But otherwise, I'm getting really close to sold out of my flowers. Unfortunately, the books really aren't selling well, but it's okay. This is all a learning experience. So anyway, this market is really busy, so I better get back. Whew. Just running out to get a little snack here. The market's been so busy. Like, this is literally the first time I think it's been slow enough that I could feasibly go to my vehicle and get a snack. So exciting. Down to 3 bouquets left. Definitely that whole adage of like, if there's lots of stuff people will buy, I think it's true, because I've been sitting on these 3 bouquets for quite some time now, and I keep like rearranging my booth hoping that whatever I'm doing will work, and so far it has not worked, but that's okay. Lots of contacts, lots of business cards, still totally worth it. All right, got my snack. Now, the only bad part is I didn't actually bring enough flowers to make my income goal for this market, and the books just don't seem to be selling, but we'll see if that turns around in the last like 3 hours of the market. So the market is over. It's the next day. I gotta confess, I was so tired from that market. I really just needed the night to like regroup a little bit. So let's talk about what happened. So it was a fantastic market. I was really impressed. I learned from the organizers. There was about 2,000 people there, and it seemed like everybody was buying, so that's a good sign. My books did not sell very well. This really wasn't the crowd for them. I found that the people who ended up buying copies of my books were people who generally sort of knew who I was and were already following me, or had maybe just like recently discovered me, were really excited to see me in person. As for flowers, so exciting news, we sold out. I just had 2 bouquets left at the end, and I had already had agreement with another seller that if I had anything left, she would take it and she would give me, like, we'd do a trade. So I got these beautiful earrings from her and a few other pairs. So excited. I feel like that was the best way to get rid of those last 2 bouquets. I think in a perfect world, I probably would have had between 25 to 30 bouquets instead of the 18 I was able to bring, but you know, I just didn't have any more flowers, and I didn't really want to like invest in too many flowers with a market that I'm not super familiar with. But anyway, great lessons learned. It was fantastic. In total, books and flowers included, I sold $425 worth of product. My goal for this market was to make somewhere between $400 to $500 to cover my costs and pay a tiny little bit for my time. And so really excited that I made that, because at some points I just wasn't sure. I found a lot of people weren't buying from me immediately, or there was like lots of people who said, oh my goodness, those are beautiful flowers, and took a card. So I'm hoping that this market will pay off more in like future customers, future weddings, that sort of thing. But I think it was a great way to just get it into the community and have people know that I exist. If you're also thinking about flower farming, I do run a flower farming online course, so you can check that link in the description. I will also have an in-person option if you're anywhere close to Saskatchewan and it would be feasible for you to come. That will be in mid-August. I'll have a link in the description for you as well, and we will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.